Welcome to That's Derm Good. I'm Janelle Ball, and I'm excited to bring you thought-provoking conversations about biologics, specialty medications, treatments, and so much more. I'll be chatting with some amazing guests about access, affordability, and advocacy. You're really going to enjoy this show. Welcome to That's Derm Good. Today, my guest is Dr. Tiffany St. She is the founder and CEO of SOCAi Labs. Welcome, Dr. St. Bernard. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. You have had such an incredible journey from biomedical engineering to founding SOCAi Labs. Can you take us back a little bit to where this all started? What drew you into the dermatology space and being a creator and founder?
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure how far back you want me to go, but I'll say that I've been passionate about entrepreneurship, I think, all my entire life before I even knew what entrepreneurship really was. Even when going into my PhD program, I interviewed advisors that were very entrepreneurial or like startup-y, like people came out of his lab doing startup work. And my passion for SOCAi and what we're building, it came from my own personal journey. And so when I was working my PhD, I got really sick and I lost a lot of my hair. And I saw this deep connection between mental health, wellness, and I realized that I feel hair can be an indicator of something else going on in the body, that we see hair as just hair or just cosmetic or,
Mhm.
not really that significant. Sadly, a lot of people do view it that way. And I think that hair, visual signs in the body can be cues, signals that something else is going on. So that combined with the fact that sadly, a few years ago, my grandmother passed away from what we thought was a bruise on her foot, but it actually ended up being necrotic tissue. And so kind of that's another example where like a visible sign could have, like an image could have saved her life if the right clinician were to have seen it at the right time. And so at SOCAi, that's kind of my team has a very similar motivation behind why we are doing what we're doing. At SOCAi, we really care about the visual AI side of things.
I like that. Now AI is becoming more and more important than ever. There's still a lot of people that are very hesitant to kind of get their feet wet into AI. But one of the things that I have always told like my team is it's here already. So you need to embrace it and understand it. Otherwise, you're going to be behind. But
Yeah.
was dermatology always on your radar, or when did that come in through your personal and professional experiences?
Yeah, so I actually used to want to be a dermatologist. So when I was in undergrad, I was pre-med. I majored in biology, but my goal was to be a dermatologist actually at the time. So I've always been passionate about this field. Um, I love working on big problems that I feel like are overlooked and things where people, like I see this huge impact, but the industry or maybe like the funders in the space, stuff like that, find it as too niche, too small, or not really that impactful. Like the example with hair, just being hair, or cosmetic stuff, just being cosmetic stuff. I think that it's really important to build solutions that make people feel confident, feel good about themselves, regardless of if it does save their life or not. So I'm really interested in those type of things. And so dermatology was an area that kind of has the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
And it can make this really positive impact and have increased quality of life. But then also, it ties into a lot of like self-care, self-confidence. And several years ago, this wasn't like, mental health and stuff like that wasn't as big of a topic as it is now. And so I'm
Right.
so glad to see that transformation. But I feel like dermatology kind of hits on those topics for me.
Yeah, it does. It's a big piece that a while ago not very many people were talking about, but now it has become such a huge topic for people to kind of correlate the mental health side of a lot of these conditions that we see in dermatology.
Absolutely.
So, your challenges with your personal health, that was during you getting your PhD. What did that teach you about the gaps in the healthcare system?
Like with respect to vision or like just in general?
Just in general, did you see that there was so many gaps when you were going through this as you were working through getting your PhD? Were you like, there's some things that need to change?
Oh, absolutely. In that scenario, I unfortunately ended up in ICU and I saw so many. I was there like brainstorming startup ideas because of all of the chaos that was happening around me, from like very simple things that could have just made the experience more convenient to
Mhm.
something that are more deep tech and innovative, like being able to help track the patient and advocate for the patient, because that was a big issue that I saw at the time, where even just being able to advocate for yourself, if you didn't have someone that kind of knew better, it could go really, really bad. And I had a couple of scenarios where uh, I wasn't listened to, and but I had the right advocates at the time, so I
Mhm.
was able to recover from that. But
Yeah.
that also still ties to what we're doing at SOCAi. I think that one of the challenges in dermatology is that the dermatologists are the experts, and the patients aren't don't necessarily have the same trained eye to
Mm.
see progress, to see improvement, and that's why we see like this huge opportunity to help provide alignment, a synergy between the clinician and the patient. And so, for example, our one of our staple products, our global hair map, allows you to map the scalp coverage on the scalp, and so you can track hair loss over time. You know, subtle changes. Patients often feel like they're not seeing anything, right, with just a general photo. And doctors, having a trained eye, kind of have this almost like a heat map in their head that they're seeing these subtle changes and stuff like that. And so, what we've done is use AI to actually produce those heat maps. And so now you have this more like even playing field for the doctor and the patient to kind of talk about, like, see, these regions are getting better, these regions are maybe getting worse, and allows them to have be able to advocate for themselves and communicate more clearly.
Wow. So, okay, can you go back just a little bit and tell me what exactly SOCAi Labs is and how that came into existence?
Good point. Let's circle
Yes,
back.
I'm so fascinated. I wanna ask so many other questions, but I'm like, "Okay, wait, I need to know exactly how this happened first." Yeah, this is
Yeah, so
exciting.
yes. So I started in the story, and then we took a detour there. So yeah, so SOCAI, I mentioned, it started from that personal journey. I felt like there was a gap in the space, in the market, and in patient care for remote, like, tracking patients over time in a more objective way. A lot
Mhm.
of things that we do in medicine are very subjective in a way, but experts are trained on it, so they're able to see these differences, but the patient is not. And so, what SOCAI does is that we build AI solutions to help dermatologists optimize their workflows through standardizing how you capture, monitor, track disease, and also provide insights to the patients. And ultimately, our goal is to optimize the workflow, but then also provide better care, right? And more
Awesome.
objective care. Yeah. But I also wanted to mention that SOCAI, just as a fun fact, stands for Standard of Care AI, as well as Skin of Color AI, because those are kind of two big pillars for us at SOCAI. We believe that we're changing the standard of care through turning the subjective into something that's very objective.
Mhm.
And then on the other side, the Skin of Color AI, we believe that building AI solutions is really important to make sure that your data set is equitable or represents the diverse community that it's going to serve. And so
Mhm.
we're doing that as like top of mind, top of like our core mission behind everything that we built.
Wow. That is really cool. How do you bring this to offices
Yeah,
and
so
providers?
yeah, great question. So right now we're still in our early days, but we are working with a number of clinics and clinical trials and even pharma. And how they're using them is in the clinic to be able to, at every single visit, be able to capture photos, track the progress, and provide insights to the patient. And then, of course, in clinical trials, is being used to monitor efficacy of a drug or treatment over time.
Wow. So this is more focused specifically to, patients that have hair loss then?
Currently, yes.
Mhm.
Currently, that's our focus. But of course, as an early stage company, our vision is to expand to way past that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of the pieces that were missing when it comes to education for patients when they're coming into the office that this can really kinda help fill those gaps?
Yeah. So I've seen patients actually kind of cry happy tears when they see the results, because in some scenarios, even if the results are saying things are getting worse, help them find like peace, basically, like, okay, yeah, I thought it was getting worse. It's saying it's getting worse. I feel heard.
Mm.
And especially in scenarios where you have a great dermatologist that can say, you know what, this is where you're starting. It's only up from here. And
Mhm.
they utilize it in the treatment of the patient. So it's not like they just see these results and that's it, right? It's incorporated in a way that patients feel like, okay, now I have a plan to move to improve or get better. Yeah.
Right. Do you see that AI is still intimidating to a lot of clinicians? What do you think the biggest myth that doctors have about AI in dermatology right now?
I think I wouldn't say it's a myth, but I would say that maybe a disconnect that I'm seeing
Mhm,
is that patients are now being able to be well researched ahead of time.
mhm,
But AI is really only as good as you're able to prompt it and as well as you're able to fact check it.
mhm.
And one of the problems is that, similar to like, Google doctors, like AI doctors are not always right. Right.
Right.
And then if you don't have the background, you're not able to just determine what's right or versus wrong. And so I still see that type of friction happening in AI. But I think where the doctors has the advantage is because they are the experts. So if when they're leveraging AI, even in the similar type of questions, the
Mhm,
way they phrase the questions, the way they're able to kind of fact check on the fly,
mhm.
they can understand if the AI system is actually providing meaningful insights versus hallucinating or making stuff up.
Right. I see that so much, even just with the access side when we're dealing with the prior authorizations or using ChatGPT to help write an appeal letter. One of the biggest things that I'm like, okay, you've got to make sure that it's actually pulling legitimate articles and it's including the right things in there because it does make stuff up. I think ChatGPT, for one, I've noticed that it tries to please you. You know, when you type in a question, you ask it something, and it's like, "Oh, that's such a great question." You know, I'm like, "Stop giving me like, trying to fill my head with all of this, like, just give me the facts." Like, I don't wanna have all the fluff to make me think I know what I'm talking about, I know everything, and it does that, and it's kinda scary.
It really does, but it's not only ChatGPT, like, almost all of them
Mhm,
are, like, skewed towards pleasing us and making us
mhm.
happy, right? Making us feel good about our responses or, like,
Right.
the responses it gives, so we keep using it. So,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
important to be mindful of that, and you can try and prompt things in a way to get the more objective or more
Mhm.
fact-based responses. And I think
Right.
ensuring that or asking for references and so that you can actually go back and look for where it got its
Mhm.
data. But you also have to check them. Because I noticed that some people ask for references and they assume it sent a reference, so it's right. But
Yeah.
I literally clicked on references and it goes to nowhere. Like that
Right.
article does not exist. So you have to be
Yeah.
careful about that.
Absolutely, that is so true. I've seen that happen as well. So with SOCAi, this it's such a really cool technology. You
Yeah.
built this with clinicians in mind. How did you involve other clinicians and doctors while building SOCAi?
Yeah. So, I mean, throughout the entire process, we've had clinicians in the loop as part of the team. I don't really believe in kind of thinking I know it all. And so I definitely know my gaps in my knowledge base. And we leverage clinician partnerships and opportunities to be able to, um, ingest their insights, understand the product design. Basically, every aspect of the product was done in collaboration with a clinician. Yeah.
Wow. I love that. I think that it makes a huge difference and that also probably gives other prescribers, that confidence in knowing I was a part of this, of building something that's so amazing.
Thank you, yes.
So, SOCAI has been described as stepping on a scale, but for your hair. What
Yep.
can we learn about the health of our hair with that?
Yeah, I mean, so it right now our focus really is on the quantification and measurement, and then in the future, maybe there's plans to add like differential diagnosis and some other things, and as I mentioned, expand to other disease indications.
Mhm,
But right now, it still provides a lot of value and insights that maybe even patients that weren't worried about their hair, not that it makes them worried, but it allows them to kind of get treatment earlier.
mm,
And I love one of the doctors that we're collaborating with, Dr. Kindred. She always says, like, time is follicles. And
mhm,
so the earlier you get treatment, the better results you get. And we recently did a pop up with her organization, Strand. And There was a booth for like our AI scans. Then they had a booth for seeing a doctor. And there was a patient that came in that had no intention to see a doctor or like one of the dermatologists. And she just was curious about AI scans and what it would uncover.
Hmm.
And through the analysis, we saw that she had early signs of androgenetic alopecia. And so we were like, oh, maybe you should talk to a dermatologist. And so she was able to book a quick appointment. And they were like, they asked her about her history. And we learned that she did have a history of AGA. And she also did have like alopecia. And so that allows her to get on treatment earlier and then,
Yeah.
get better results. So those are
Wow.
stories I'm excited about.
Yeah, that is amazing. Loss in general has become more of a trend where people are really looking at that. You hear a lot of stories. I've heard several people where men particularly going and getting hair transplants like out of the country and stuff like that. I'm like, this is like a big deal now. People are really concerned about their hair health. So is this a tool that you have to go and see a doctor for, or is this something where like you have a website where you can go and a patient can decide, hey, I need to get this scan, or I just want to learn a little bit about that?
Yeah. So where we are on our in our chapter, like in our journey, is
Mhm.
that you have to go through a dermatologist because we want the doctor to be the final say of the analysis. So we kind of look at our analysis kind of like if you got like an X-ray or something like that. We wouldn't want the patient to just look at the X-ray and interpret it themselves.
Right.
It might lead them down the wrong path. And so that's why we are right now working closely with clinicians. But definitely as things grow, it'll be even more accessible and easier to access. But on your topic of hair being hot, I totally agree with you. There's
Mhm.
so many new drugs entering the market. There's so much more talks and conferences on hair loss. There's like right now is the time to be in hair.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, alopecia, I think, has become a hot button topic. So I think now that everybody's kind of hearing a little bit more about it, they're seeing, oh, now I understand what that is, which is really interesting because years ago there wasn't much for it. Nobody was talking about it, and you would see people and they would just automatically assume, oh, they must have cancer or some other issue. And now it's a lot easier to have those conversations. I mean, they've even got Barbie dolls that have alopecia.
Yeah, they do. Yes. Oh my God, they do. And they're so cute.
Yes, and, so I love that they can actually bring these conversations to light and really talk to people about it. I mean, even my daughter is able to, "Oh, is that alopecia?" Identifying those things and knowing that people aren't alone. When you talk back about the mental side of things and how it affects people, helping them to feel confident in who they are with in dealing with a condition like this. I think that is so important.
I totally agree. Yeah, those the dolls and stuff like that are to me it's so much more than it just being a Barbie doll, right? It's like representation. The little girls that have or and guys that have hair loss can now feel like, okay, this is not something foreign. This is
Mhm.
like, they could understand it by name. And so
Right.
and the community organizations like NAF that are like doing this type of work, it's like amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like, because I know you were talking about like skin of color,
Mhm.
and where do you feel like when it comes to equitable dermatology, what does that look like to you in skin of color? Do you feel like there's a lack of education there?
Whew, that's an interesting topic.
It is.
Well, do I think there's a lack? I think that, we only know what we know, right? So we
Mhm.
don't know. So there's so many nuances between I'll go broaden it, not just only skin color, hair
Mhm.
type, texture, ethnicities, cultures, you name it. And so it's yeah, I would say that there's gaps in, like, alignment around the same way I think there's, gaps around, like, just the visual side of things. I think there's gaps in understanding and how we communicate across the board, and I do think AIs can help be, like, almost like a translator in a way, between cultures and backgrounds and stuff like that, but I also think it's really important when you're building these AI systems to keep that in mind. Historically, like patients of color or systems that include patients of the different hair types, textures, and so on. were like an afterthought. After you figured out the one group, then you add the others. And so that's why, to me, my goal is for it to work for everyone, like regardless of your hair texture and
Mhm.
color and so on from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah. Do you think that there is enough education, or do you think there's still lack of education in general on both sides? On the medical side, when it comes to documentation, when we're trying to get making sure that we have things like, scoring tools and documenting what are the most important pieces of information that we need in a chart note, but also helping to educate patients about what information they should be bringing to a doctor's appointment. What information should they have readily available as far as, what is happening within their body, what is causing, their this chronic condition, and what they can bring to be able to understand what's going on and really help them get the treatment that they need.
Yeah, and so the question is, do I think there's a gap still in that type of
Mhm.
education? Absolutely. What I'm seeing in the industry is that companies are becoming more aware of that, and they are backing educational programs and trying to build ones of their own to help alleviate these problems from different angles, whether it's
Mhm.
through the prior authorization side or the patient advocacy side or even clinician education and so on. Some of the work that we're doing is also to try and help that, especially on like the helping the industry as well as a whole understand standardization and what does it mean to actually produce a standardized image. So yeah, and also the communication education side of things like as well.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, what you're doing, you're really building in a space that sits between like healthcare, technology, and research. What do you think the biggest challenges are in bringing something like this to life have been?
For us, it's been the whole like interdisciplinary piece of side of things. It's because
Mm.
there's so much things to take into consideration when building these type of platforms. It's not only what we talked about earlier, making sure that the clinician will actually utilize it and it provides value in their clinic, but it's also being mindful of the data, making sure that the data policies are in place that are in line with what patients with the want or advocate for, helping to think about the education and advocacy side of things. So, how can we help communicate to the patient or provide insight so that they can maybe even become prepared for appointment more and they can get better care? Because there's so many patients that even come to their appointment for hair loss with braids. So, like, or cornrows, and then your scalp is
Yeah.
not visible. And so the issue there is it's not just their hairstyle, right? It's the fact that the doctor can't see their scalp. And so, that's really important. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, those are some of the things that we have top of mind and that we're working on as well.
Yeah. Didn't even think about that, coming to an appointment with braids. That's
Yeah.
wild. It makes sense. Yeah.
Like, well, I just got my hair done. I'm not taking it down for this appointment. All right. All right.
Right. Paid a lot of money for that.
Exactly.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. What do you wish more dermatology practices understood about where technology is headed?
I think it's just going to take time for clinics to really truly adopt it. I think
Mhm.
industries, not only just in medicine or in dermatology, are trying to figure out how best to leverage or utilize AI from end to end. And I do believe that to really effectively utilize AI, it's going to be more of a major shift and maybe major overhaul, not necessarily just using it to like query, ask questions, but
Mhm.
thinking about how do you integrate it into your day to day workflow. And I think that a good place to start with trying to figure out how to do that is really thinking about any pain point or like frustration in your
Mhm.
workflow. And like if it takes more than say a couple minutes to do, maybe write it down. And then you can leverage AI to help you figure out is this something that could be automated or is this something
Mhm.
that I need to, hire someone to do. And I'm not saying that in the with the goal of like replacing people, but
Right.
with the goal of helping you like or dermatologists and the industry automate or optimize their workflow, and that you
Mhm.
can hire people to do the more high skilled, more impactful work
Yeah.
instead of the mundane, tedious work.
I love how you put that. It's funny because a lot of times we think of AI, you think it's me just asking a question and getting a response, but there's a lot more to AI. It's building those smarter workflows and automating some of those, like you said, mundane tasks that are causing those delays. And, we're seeing that more and more within these prior authorization with insurance companies, utilizing AI for submitting those prior authorizations or how they respond, how you get those denials. And so there's a lot of pieces to it, but they're automating a lot of things. And it's not just, okay, let me ask ChatGPT or ask this AI platform a question and get a response. It's utilizing it in a smart way of being able to streamline your workflows, make things a lot easier. But yes, there definitely has to be human oversight. I don't think if you're a patient, you don't want AI just doing everything for you. You still want that human connection and that human touch of, I'm going to see my provider, I'm going to talk to them and they're going to give me some insight. But after this appointment, they leave probably with way more questions than when they first came in. And that follow up and response, I think, is so important. And knowing that you've got somebody that you can reach out to versus an AI bot telling you this
Yeah.
is what your next step is. This is how you get your medication and this is what you do. And then it kind of closes the loop. And I feel like a lot of questions can be unanswered if you just leave it up to, automated systems and AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier around you get the answer that agrees with you or aligns
Right.
with you. So if you ask the wrong question, then you're going to get the wrong response and find ways that X fits into the symptoms that you outlined versus coming at it at a different angle or how a clinician would do it. And so
Right.
that combined with the whole need for human interaction, I
Mhm.
don't think that will ever go away. People
Yeah.
will always want connection. That's how we, survived to this point, right?
Right. Yeah. So what is next for SOCAi Labs?
Well, yeah, so what's next is that we are going to be expanding our reach and working with more dermatologists and more researchers and stuff like that in the near future. And we will be also looking for more partners and strategic allies to join us on this journey and looking for new indications, new interesting problems to solve. Yeah, that's what's next.
I love that. I think it's absolutely incredible what you're doing and you're bringing into the derm space to really just answer a lot of questions and help so many people with being able to understand their condition and being able to visually see how their treatments are impacting them and what they need to do. I think it's a really cool tool that you've created.
I'm excited about the next steps.
Yes, it's exciting. I mean, that was my other question was what excites you more about the future in dermatology right now? But I mean, there's so much that's happening. What do you think is one thing that every provider listening should start doing today to better be prepared for the future?
I mean, I think I would just go back to the same point. I think it does take time or pause to really sit down and think about your workflow, think about the pain points, think about it from end to end, and not just think about how it could be like your personal assistant, but think about how it can completely overhaul. If you could close your eyes and think about a future where AI is able to act on things, it is able to look for things. Like, what would your clinical workflow look like in the future? Like,
Mhm.
build for the future, not for where things are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely important for clinicians to be involved in shaping a lot of these tools, because it makes so much of a difference. It has such a huge impact on outcomes.
Yeah. Also, taking it from a slightly different angle is the fact that people are going to be building these tools, so it's better for it to be built right.
Yeah,
I think it's more likely to be right if the clinicians are involved in the process. So
absolutely. That you know what? That is so funny you said that because I think about tools that have been created for so many different things, and it's so weird when somebody tries to create something for you to use in your workflow that has no idea what you do or how that workflow actually works.
yeah,
So, yeah, it makes more sense for the clinicians to create these tools than somebody else coming in saying, "Oh, this is the next best thing." And actually
Exactly.
have never worked in that space and understand how it actually can be utilized and useful.
Totally agree. Yeah, and then the idea for the builders that are maybe listening, get into the clinic, not only ask for advice, but experience the workflows. Be there for end to end to understand like what does it actually feel like? What does it actually look like? Yeah, not just get secondhand information.
Right. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a really good topic because there's so much talk about innovation, AI, but also alopecia as well. And by the way, I have to comment on your amazing hair. I love the blue
Thank
curls. So, we'll definitely have a YouTube video out so people will be able to see your amazing hair. But yes, thank you
thank
so much for joining me today. This has been so exciting.
thank you. And I love being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for spending a few minutes with me and listening to That's Derm Good. You can expect new episodes of That's Derm Good every week. The podcast is available on your favorite app, including where you're listening right now. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. Bye.